Can we start?
Yes, sir, please.
Good evening, all. A warm welcome to the 10th FDP organized by St. Chavara Center for Teaching Excellence and Educational Innovation of St. Aloysius College, which aims at orientation for young faculty members of higher education institutions. We are delighted to have you all here today as we delve into the captivating topic of today's session, AI tools for academic research. Before we embark on this journey, I would like to invite our dear principal, Dr. Chaco Joseph, the principal, St. Aloysius College, El Turut, for the formal welcome speech.
Thank you. The speaker of the day, Dr. K.S. Sowmiya Rani, other participants of this program, distinguished participants of this program, Professor Dr. Rajendra Kumar Uppal, the participants from different parts of the country, the IQAC coordinator of the college, Dr. Libizan, the Dr. Abin Sojan, who will be proposing the vote of thanks, Mr. Soundies, who will be introducing the speaker, and my dear fellow academicians. The St. Chavara Center for Teaching Excellence and Education Innovation is an initiative of the IQAC of St. Aloysius College to orient young faculty members to higher education. This is the 10th in a series of national webinars that we are organizing. We organize one lecture each month on a very relevant topic. Today, we have a topic which is exciting and at the same time controversial and even skeptical when it comes to the employment security of academicians. In the realm of higher education, the convergence of AI has introduced transformative possibilities that extend beyond traditional pedagogical methods. The integration of AI technologies into academia is ushering in a new era of teaching, research, and administrative efficiency. The topic we have today, AI and its role in research in higher education, explore how AI-driven tools and techniques are revolutionizing every facet of academic experience. From personalized learning pathways that adapt to individual students' need and advanced plagiarism detection systems, AI is reshaping how educators engage with the students. Furthermore, AI-powered research tools aid academics in shifting through vast troves of information, accelerating the discovery process and enabling interdisciplinary collaborations like never before. This session, I hope, will navigate the potential and identify the challenges and ethical dimensions of AI in higher education. Today, we have a very distinguished resource person, Dr. Sowmiya Rani KS, for giving this lecture. She is an editor, she is a speaker, and she is an entrepreneur. She will be introduced formally after this, so I am not venturing into that. But what I would like to tell is I identified her as a good speaker through her LinkedIn profile. And when we approached her for this session, she readily agreed. Again, I understand from her LinkedIn profile that she is a very busy trainer, having training engagements all over the country. Still, she accepted our humble request to be a resource person for this session. So, on behalf of St. Chavara Center and St. Aloysius College and all the participants, I extend a very warm welcome to Dr. K.S. Sowmiya Rani to this session. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.
I also welcome other distinguished participants of this program. We have Professor Dr. Rajendra Kumar Uppal, who was earlier a resource person for this program. He is also someone who has established himself in academia with his long years of experience and many national and international awards. But he was always humble enough to be a participant in our sessions ever since he became a resource person, and that is the sort of simplicity that we expect from great academicians. Welcome, sir. I also welcome other participants who are from different parts of the country. My colleagues, the organizing committee members of this program, and I also welcome some of the resource persons, past resource persons other than Dr. Uppal, who has joined this, and also future resource persons who have joined this program. So I hope this session, which is going to be on in a very relevant and current topic, will be beneficial to all of you. As you know, our modus operandi is the resource person will speak for 50 to 60 minutes, which will be followed by 15 minutes of discussion. So you can either ask questions directly, or you can type your questions in the chat box. So once again, welcoming you all to this program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, I welcome Mr. Sandeep E.S., Assistant Professor of the Department of English at St. Aloysius College, Elturuth, for introducing our main speaker of the day.
Thank you, ma'am. So, good evening to all. Speaker of the day, Dr. Sowmiya Rani KS, is an editor at Cactus Communications. She's also the founder, editor, and reviewer at Sowmi's writing workshop, and it is one of the fewest ventures which provides assistance in improving scores from this by the standards set by uh, the nodal agencies like NAC, NIV, NBA, and PSI. And this venture is incubated in the Women Startup Program at NSRCEL, a wing of IIM Bangalore. This is also co-incubated with Kerala Startup Mission. Madam, Miss Dr. Sowmiya Rani is also an experienced speaker who started her career as a young ambassador of DAD in 2017-18. She has also a number of publications, and we are really glad to have you, ma'am, here. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Dr. Sandeep. And I would like to thank Professor Chaco for this invitation. So let's go ahead and start. So let me present my screen. So the standard question, is my screen visible? Am I audible?
Yes, madam, audible.
Okay, great. So how many of you here play chess? I'm sure if this was an offline session, I would see quite a number of hands going up. But unfortunately, I cannot see you raising your hands. But let me assume that at least 20-30% of you play chess. And if you're not way too young, then this name on the screen must be a bit familiar to you if you had been following the world chess landscape in the late 1990s. Okay, so Garry Kasparov was one of the uncontested champions of chess in the 1990s. He was from Russia. So the US basically sees that this Russian guy keeps winning every single tournament, or at least most of them. They're not very happy. Being such a huge country, they feel a bit offended that they are not able to produce a champion to beat this guy Kasparov. So they go ahead, choose a player, train them for like a few months, and they go challenge Kasparov to a set of matches. Kasparov, being the sports person that he is, he accepts the challenge, and these two guys, they are vetted against each other. They go ahead, they play a set of matches. Whom do you think will win the match or the set of matches, the tournament basically? We would assume that this new guy wins because we are so smitten by all these Hollywood movies where the small guy wins against this huge giant and stuff. But that cannot really happen in real life always because Kasparov has years of experience and a tremendous expertise. He wins the tournament basically. So the Americans, they're not really very happy. They go back, they train this new guy for a few more months. They come back, challenge Kasparov again. This time, the new young guy with a very few months of experience, or rather very little experience when compared to that of Kasparov's, wins the match. The whole world is stunned. At least the part of the world that follows chess is stunned. Not because this guy here wins the match, but rather the computer that sits here was the one that won the match against Kasparov. So this computer is Deep Blue, and it was one of the first supercomputers developed by IBM. So this kind of ushered in the era where machines were more brilliant than men, humans, and they were able to quickly learn, adapt, and win against us. I would say this kind of marked the beginning of AI for us. And once this was over in the 1990s, there were several other developments in machine learning, natural language processing, robotics. So many things entered into the field. But we were not very excited. Maybe the few elite scientists, the nerd guys, the computer guys, they were talking about it. They were being excited about this. But we didn't bother. AI did not belong in the layman's vocabulary. But suddenly, a few months ago, all of that changed. What happened? This happened. So ChatGPT came into existence, and we all started going crazy about artificial intelligence. So until November 2022, artificial intelligence was a word in the vocabulary of very few people. Now, almost every second person you see talks about artificial intelligence. And interestingly, the company that created ChatGPT, OpenAI, had one of its first investors in Elon Musk. For some reason, Elon Musk somehow has this knack to identify the next happening thing and be a part of it. But unfortunately, Musk did not get to be a part of ChatGPT because he leaves OpenAI in 2018, and 4 years later, ChatGPT comes into effect, or it is released upon us, and we are all stunned. Yeah. So, what is all this fuss about ChatGPT? I'm sure most of you here on the call today must have had experiences with Swiggy and Zomato. We regularly order food from there. And what happens if something goes wrong with the food order? We go have a full-blown fight, not with a person, but with the Swiggy or Zomato chatbot. ChatGPT is another chatbot. At its core, it's nothing but a chatbot. So why the craze? Because unlike a Swiggy or a Zomato chatbot, which has very limited repertoire of responses, ChatGPT can hold conversations, long, unending conversations with you in a very human-like fashion. And also because ChatGPT had the opportunity to develop on the shoulders of giants like Google and other big players, ChatGPT was rolled out as a multilingual tool, which means this quickly became popular even with the non-English speaking community. It even started off with like 4 or 5 different Indian languages. So Google was pretty much doing a very good job before ChatGPT came into the scene. So you ask Google for something, it goes searches the interweb and brings you all the relevant links. So how is ChatGPT different? ChatGPT kind of appealed to the lazy human inside us by not giving the links, but rather giving the answer completely and directly, and in a language that we were able to understand. It even had possibilities for you to kind of customize the answer you wanted, or customize the style, the length, and complexity of the answer you wanted. That's what made ChatGPT the star of the last few months, and it brought AI into all our homes, into all our conversations. At the core, what is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is a generative AI tool. It is basically a kind of a large language model. So these large language models, are LLMs, are basically tools that learn from the content that already exists on the internet, and they assimilate it and reproduce it in a way that is asked of them. So the good thing is they quickly learn from all the content from across the different sources that we have dumped onto the web. The bad thing is they learn from us, because we humans are very biased creatures. We have just so many biases, it's even difficult to list out the number of biases that we have, each one of us as individuals. And when we created data that is present on the internet, we consciously or unconsciously embedded all of these biases into these content out there, and these generative AI tools are learning right out of it, which means the content that these tools present to you are also filled with biases. They are not bias free. Therefore, you will have to take all that ChatGPT or any other generative AI produces with a pinch of salt, and there must always be a human component to vet and kind of ensure the accuracy and the relevance of whatever is being generated by these tools. Say, for example, a generative image creator tool was tasked with creating images based on certain descriptions, and you'd be surprised and shocked by the results. So, these are some of the images that the tool came up with. I'm sure that the tool was mid journey. So, if you look at these images, at the first glance, they look amazing. So, just by asking a very small prompt, what does a drug dealer look like? What does a cleaner look like? Just with these very small prompts, the tool, or maybe with a few additional help here and there, the tool was able to generate a complete human image, which is touted to be unique, not a copied version. But when you really pause and look at these images once again, ask yourselves, how many prisoners look like this? Have you met a prisoner who looks like this? How many nurses do you think look like that? Yeah. So where are these images, where are these stereotypes coming from? It's basically coming from the biases that we humans have created into our data. This is what makes AI interesting, but also at the same time scary to think if these biases are to run the world. So AI at its core is complex, it is multi-layered, and also it is evolving every day. We can only do this right if we agree at the core that we really do not understand these beasts 100%. We have unleashed them onto the world, onto ourselves, but where this will lead us is still a question. A lot of fears around AI is very valid, though some fears may not be, but let's always take the unbridled optimism with a bit of pessimism is how I would like to personally see it. So I'm Dr. Sowmiya, and I would like to say a few things which you don't find on my bio. So I enjoy doing 3 things in my life, or the 3 most favorite things are that of being a parent to a 9-year-old, being an editor for a company called Editage. So Editage stands on the line between researchers and journals. We help researchers, we help journals publish better. We have an array of services right from translation to submission to help them. So here you see certain numbers. These are from my dashboard from Editage. So Editage has a scale of 4 for measuring the efficiency and the quality of its editors. I have a score of 3.84, which is considered pretty good. And if you look at the complaint rate, I have a complaint rate of 0.9% from the clients, which means for every 100 jobs I do, every 100 scientific manuscripts I edit, less than one of them gets a complaint from the client. I enjoy being an editor on most of the days, but let me be a bit honest as well. Editing manuscripts or reading manuscripts is not always an easy job. Not all days are easy and enjoyable as much as I want them to be. The third role I have done pretty recently is that of being an entrepreneur. We kind of have a system that is similar to Editage, wherein we offer webinars, workshops, and editing services to institutions. We are more focused on institutions across India, and we have had pretty good experiences so far with several institutions in South India. We are also slowly venturing into the north. So the focus for this year was to closely work with institutions to empower their faculty and scholars to improve the research component scores so that they have a better profile when they go in for their accreditations and other ranking systems. When NEP comes into play, we are very interested in learning and growing with the institutions to help them tackle the research requirements that would be a part of NEP 2020. And my startup, Soundies, is incubated with NSR Cell, the incubator at IIM Bangalore, and we are also co-incubated with Kerala Startup Nation. So that's with the personal stories. So when we look at academia, the pressure to publish has been constantly increasing. Gone are the days when publishing was considered a bonus, or it was not at least done for appraisals, promotions, or for recognition. But the days have changed, and now researchers are expected to publish frequently, not just in any journal, but in high impact journals. And even after they do that, they might survive the academic journey or they might not. That still stands as a question mark. So when we kind of decide the time spent by a researcher faculty across different activities, this is a bit old data. It's from 2016, but I'm pretty sure that these proportions have not changed much. So around 50% of their time is spent in reading or writing or activities related to that, be it for teaching or in terms of research. So maybe we are not able to take out the burden on them on the other parts of their contributions. But then what if we can empower them with tools that can make their life easier when it comes to preparing lessons for classes, or say writing and presenting their work, be it in a classroom, be it in a conference, or in scientific journals. So this will form the core of my talk today. We'll be focusing on tools across 7-8 different aspects, wherein the work of the researcher can be made easier, or the researcher can be supported to do whatever they do in a much better way. The first tool is, of course, ChatGPT itself, but then ChatGPT is not perfect. It was not built for answering your research questions. It does not cite the sources. It does not really validate its answers, which means the answers provided by ChatGPT, even if they sound brilliant and accurate, most of the times they are not. And recently, even OpenAI accepts that the brilliance of ChatGPT is kind of waning, probably because ChatGPT has been simplifying complex ideas too much. It is making it too simplified, and it's trying to maybe relearn from its own generated content, that the quality of output from ChatGPT has been kind of deteriorating. So claims OpenAI and other influencers who have been working with this tool for some time. And one of the communities that has been really affected by ChatGPT scandals is the lawyer community, I would say. So you will find many hilarious stories where lawyers picked up case studies from ChatGPT. They went ahead, presented in the court and before judges, who called them out because such cases never existed. ChatGPT had come out with beautiful case studies which perfectly matched with the case at hand, only that those case studies never existed in the first place. This could very well happen to us as researchers, and we definitely don't want that to happen. But if you're not considering ChatGPT to create chunks of text, rather create the right frameworks, right questions, or certain trick places where you need a sounding board, then ChatGPT would still be your go-to tool. It could still help you. So there are several resources out there about ChatGPT, and the content that ChatGPT generates is only as good as the instructions that you provide. These instructions that you give to ChatGPT are called prompts, and if you look at LinkedIn or anywhere else, you'll see that there is a entirely whole breed of people called prompt engineers. These are people who have figured out how to instruct ChatGPT in the right way to get the right results. So Dr. Andy Stapleton here posts lot many informative resources for research community, and one of the resources is a compilation of what he calls the epic prompts that can be used specifically in the context of research. So say you're looking to summarize and analyze some information out there, then these are some of the prompts that could give you your desired results. So this is not the end stop for you for learning about prompts, but this could be a great starting point. So when OpenAI was busy with ChatGPT, Google was busy with its own tool, or rather, they were motivated by ChatGPT that they had to come out with a tool, and the tool was called, is still called BART. BART, interestingly, has kind of taken over ChatGPT in the way it presents its information. It's much more comprehensive, not too simplified. Maybe if ChatGPT is not your cup of tea, then the second tool that you should be experimenting with is Google Bard. So the generative AI landscape does not end with ChatGPT and Google Bard. There are so many other tools that have been in existence right alongside ChatGPT, or they have been under process even before ChatGPT. So these are some of the tools that could be of great help to you. And I would like to have a few special mentions here. So Canva, I'm sure several of you are already using Canva for your presentation requirements. Canva recently introduced something called Magic Write, their own AI tool. So bringing the amazing designs that Canva already has along with this capability of generative AI could really be an amazing thing. So this is something you should definitely check out. And if you have published papers, or if you are in the process of publishing scientific papers with journals, you'll see that several journals want you to create titles, design abstracts and keywords based on SEO kind of words, right? So SEO is search engine optimization, and they want you to have SEO words on the title, abstract, and keyword, so that your paper comes up on top of the search results in Google. So this is one app. It is not a AI tool that is specific for research, but then we don't really need it to be specific for research, because any SEO has to be targeted to the search engine. So SEO AI is a great tool to check out if you have a requirement for optimizing your titles, keywords, abstracts, and so on. So this is where the actual session for the day starts. So being a researcher, being a writer in the scientific world, the first thing you will have to do is read literature, search and find the right literature, so that you can base your research on what is already known. So there are different sources of literature. Broadly, you can classify them into primary, secondary, and tertiary. And you can, of course, start reading from tertiary sources, but eventually you will have to move into the secondary, and the final citable sources are your primary sources, like original research articles, conference proceedings, book chapters, and so on. Yeah, so book chapters not always primary, they could even be secondary. So finding the right literature is key. Not just finding any literature, but then say you are writing a scientific paper or a PhD thesis, you are expected to know all the papers that have been published, or at least most of the papers that have been published that are relevant to whatever you're trying to do. When we search for literature and say you're writing a paper, you would need anywhere around 40 50 references at least to support your findings. Say you're writing a PhD thesis, then this number could go up to 400 500 papers. Even with for the citations, the actual reading might go up to 1,000, even more papers, depending on the field you are in. When we think of literature, when we think of all these papers that we collect, we kind of visualize them as a list. So say I have 50 papers. Okay, I have paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, paper 50. In reality, these papers, they are not silos. Each of these papers could be linked to several other papers even within the list and also beyond the list. So these papers basically, they exist in the form of a huge interconnected web with a lot many levels of interactions, lot many directions, and also the levels of interactions will depend between these papers. So this forms the basis of identifying literature through a process called citation mining or snowballing. So this is nothing but, say for instance, you already are reading a paper published in 2017. So this paper will have a set of references. So this paper by default is linked to all the papers that are listed out in the references. So if this paper has 50 references, this paper is already networked with 50 papers. And say this paper was published in 2017. So in the years following 2017, there could be new papers that have cited this seminal or seed paper. So you will have to search through these references. Say you find 50 papers. Now you will have to go back and search for each of the 50 papers that are in each of these references. And this network keeps expanding, and one paper could be linked to thousands of other papers through this process of snowballing. Similarly, as the years go by, several other papers will also cite this paper, which means the forward network also keeps expanding with the years that go by, right? So this process, though it kind of looks or sounds a bit easier when we think about it in theoretical terms, it is immensely difficult when you will have to do this practically, where you have to start with one paper and snowball and find out all the papers that are associated with it so that you don't miss any seminal paper, because missing a paper that has done your work already would be a colossal time of waste. If you only find it out after you have done the same research, you have tried and reinvented the wheel only to find out that the wheel already exists in several forms even before you. So what if we had a tool that can help you map the literature based on these citations? So that tool is called LitMaps. So it is the acronym or the shorter version of literature maps, and it basically does what the name entails. It creates maps of your literature. How does it create maps out of your literature? It asks you for, say, a keyword or a seminal article or a seed article, and based on the keywords you provide, or based on the link you provide, or based on the PDF of the article you provide, LitMaps pulls out all the relevant articles, and it kind of creates a map with 20 of the most prominent articles. Yeah. So in this case, this was my seed article. So I gave the PDF of this article as the input. And here you can see that it has mapped out articles. So this was a very recent article. It was only out in 2023. That's why you don't see any forward citations, because the citations have not yet happened. But you can see that there's a whole map of backward citations spanning up to as old as 2007. That's like almost 15 years ago. And it has pulled out all the most relevant papers. I can keep adding on to this map by clicking on here. So I can keep adding 20 more articles. I guess maybe if you have to add more articles, you just have to sign up. So the basic functionalities of most of the tools that we'll be discussing today are free. But then if you will have to use its advanced features, you might have to go in for the premium version. So now it not only creates the maps, actually reading the papers that form a part of the map is also pretty easier. All you have to do is say, for instance, so this was my seed article, and say I'm interested in knowing what this Patterson 2017 is all about. All I have to do is just click on the circle here, and a new window or a new tab opens up within the page displaying the abstract. Not only that, you can see that the title here is a hyperlink to the original journal page. So if you click on the title, you will be taken to the full article, if the full article exists. So it will take you to the journal page where the article is present. If the article is open access, you can access it there. If not, then you will have to get back to the authors or to other sources to find the full text of the articles. But by quickly adding on networks to each of these papers, you can identify a whole bunch of papers in no time. So a normal citation mining could take you anywhere between a month or two for identifying all the different papers, because you will have to go through the entire article and to do that, you can maybe within the span of a day, you can quickly scan through hundreds of abstracts and add the papers to your folder. This makes your literature search much simpler and less time consuming. So LitMaps is not the only tool that can do this. There are also other tools like Connected Papers. There's a tool called Research Rabbit. Then you have Insightful. All these tools pretty much help you create these literature maps. The only thing is they have a bit different user interfaces, and some of these tools also give you metrics on how much the two papers are relevant in terms of percentage or so. So based on whatever works for you, based on the interface, you could choose between these tools to make your literature survey easier. So say for instance, I'm starting out with into a completely new field. Then the literature survey used to be a bit more difficult, because I will have to identify the right keywords to define my work. So even now, say for instance, you don't have LitMaps. How would you search Google Scholar? Because Google Scholar has has certain limits. You cannot input 20 words or a sentence with 20 words into Google Scholar and expect to find the right papers, because Google Scholar is not really trained to filter through those large chunks of information to identify the right keywords and pull out the right papers. So what if we had a tool wherein you don't have to think about keywords, you don't have to think about key strings or defining these, but rather you can just simply choose a paragraph from a paper you're reading, copy paste it into the tool, or maybe integrate the tool into your Chrome browser, and you can just use the widget to highlight whatever text you are interested in. That can be used as the input, the key input. Yeah, so that would really save a lot of time, and that is where this tool called Sourcely can help you. So this exactly does what I have been discussing in the past 30 seconds. So this tool can help you find relevant articles not based on keywords. You can actually input chunks of text into the key bar, and it would do the work of identifying the right keywords for you and sourcing out articles. This gives you the possibility of working with multiple keywords in a single go. So there are almost not much restrictions. I'm not sure about the upper limit, but if you're using the free version of the tool, you can give an input that is as long as 300 characters. So this is roughly around 300 characters, the input that I've given here for the test. So this is still a very decent amount of words to be used as keywords to search for articles, I would say. So this is what the output looks like. You also have the option of choosing the years as one of the filters. But one interesting application here is you can also choose the minimum number of citations you want. So say you're looking for papers that are highly cited in your field. Sourcely could be your tool to do that, or rather one of the tools to do that, because there are a number of other tools that I'm sure will have the same functionality. But apart from using Sourcely for inputting large chunks of text, you can also use Sourcely as your assistant to find papers with high citations or a certain number of citations as you desire. So the next 4 tools I'm going to talk about are also search engines. Basically, they are kind of competitors or alternatives to Google Scholar. So each of them come with their own special functionality. Here you get to ask questions. Say you have a research question in mind. You want to see if someone else has already worked on it, or if someone else has, then you would want to know the answer. So it is under these scenario that these tools can come in very handy. So consensus is the first tool, search engine tool that I wouldn't call it a search engine, but the search tool that I would like to introduce to you for today. So this is what the output from consensus looks like. So the question I asked was, is intermittent fasting good for the liver? Because intermittent fasting has been touted to be good for diabetes, good for liver function, especially non-alcoholic fatty liver, and for brain health, whatnot. So intermittent fasting, keto dieting happen to be the buzzwords around health and diet in the past months. So I just wanted to know what consensus had to say about this. So I asked, is intermittent fasting good for the liver? It doesn't just answer, unlike Chachi PPT. So if you ask the same question to Chachi PPT, I'm sure it will come up with the same answers, but it will not give you the sources, but only with the final synthesized answer. But here consensus gives me a summarized answer. It also gives me the sources from which this answer was ultimately summarized, and it also gives me something called the consensus meter, where I see that 71% of the papers say yes. They say yes, intermittent fasting is good for the liver. 29% say maybe it is possible that it is good, but there is no paper that says that no, there is no such association. It is a placebo effect or something. So this makes me feel good if I'm a researcher who wants to explore this arena further. Yeah, and here one other feature of consensus is that you can also kind of see the quality of the journal displayed here. So it tells you if it's a very rigorous journal, if it's a bit relaxed journal, and so on, based on a few criteria. So that could also be something that can help you. And it also marks which papers say yes, which say possibly, and which say no. That makes my life much more easier. So Semantic Scholar is the second tool under this category. So it's a free tool which can help you pull out literature. So it basically looks more or less like Google Scholar, but then it has much more input capabilities. It's not as stringent as Google Scholar. And similar to Scholar, you can also kind of filter out the papers based on the fields of study, based on the year that it was published, based on the presence or absence of open access, the full PDF. And one good thing about this is you can also kind of differentiate between journal articles and conference articles. So the next tool is Illicit. Illicit is, when I started out on my PhD, the first thing that my supervisor wanted me to do was create an Excel file on all the literature that I was reading. So I was tasked with reading literature about a certain field. And as I read, I was supposed to fill into those Excel blocks, like the author name, the title of the paper, what was the aim of the study, what is the hypothesis tested, the key results, the limitations, discussions, and so on. So blah, blah. That's like a large Excel. So if all of you have worked with the Microsoft Excel, and finding something in Excel and visualizing was not a very fun thing to do. Creating the Excel sheet in itself was not very fun, I would say. But then that really came in handy when I had to, or when any of us in our lab had to go and do the thesis writing part. It was this Excel that formed the anchor from which we could start and process. So now we have a tool that can do it for you, and that tool is called Illicit. So in Illicit, if you ask Illicit a question, it basically not just pulls out the literature, but it pulls out the literature apart and kind of splits it into different sections. So due to some space constraints, I could not really copy, paste, or screenshot the entire table, but what you see here is like just 3 columns, but Illicit kind of gives you 5-6 columns. It gives you the title, it gives you the abstract summary, and the number of participants, interventions, so on. So like 5-6 different criteria. It also helps you to quickly pull out the metadata. So say you're reading a paper, you want to know who funded this particular research. You don't have to really go search through the entire paper. You can just click on these links for each of the papers. The columns get added. In fact, it gets added for all the papers, and you can quickly score through them and identify what you're looking at. And when you click at the paper here, so I think the name of the paper is the hyperlink. Once you click on it, you can see the actual abstract from the paper. It also gives you the summary and many other key details that we will look for when reading a paper. So this is just one half of the screenshot. It even tells you if you can trust this paper based on the information that has been revealed there. It also pulls up papers that have critiqued this paper. So say if this paper was withdrawn for some reason, or if the methodology was criticized in a different paper, you would know right here, even without having to run through the web to find these details. It also gives you the exact lines where this particular article was cited. That gives you an idea of how else the study could be relevant to you or to your study as well. So the next tool we're going to see for the day is Iris AI. So Iris, similar to Consensus Illicit, it searches for your articles, but it does much more than just searching. It gives you a lot many customization options. It can help you filter based on context, based on data. You can also set alerts for monitoring if something new happens with the paper or around the paper. This tool kind of automates the entire process of literature find and review for you. So now that we have so many options, overwhelming enough for finding literature, then comes the part where we'll have to actually read the literature. And coming from a non-English speaking country, not all of us were exposed to English from our early days. There are people who, who got to read in English for the first time during their college days, some even much later, which means reading papers which have a very specific style of scientific English or formal English in them is not always easy. So what if we had a guide, a friend who could sit with us and explain papers to us in a much simpler way? Then I guess the field would be more leveled and fair. So SkySpace came up with this tool called Copilot, which can help you do exactly that. So say you're reading a paper and you find that certain sections are difficult. So SkySpace here basically does a lot many things. They have tools for so many things, but I am today focusing on the tool called Copilot. So here you can upload the PDF of the paper that you want explained, and you'll see that Copilot already comes up with answers for 12 of the standard questions that it asks of all the papers. In addition, you also have the opportunity to ask your own questions, and say you don't understand a certain section of the paper, you don't have to copy paste it into a different tool. All you have to do is just highlight it within Copilot, and it gives you the option to. So if you highlight sufficient length of sentences or length of paragraph, you get to summarize it. Say if it's shorter or longer, then you have the option to ask for an explanation or find related papers. So instead of using the Sourcely tool, if you have Copilot, you can do what Sourcely does right within Copilot. So the tools we discuss here will have overlapping features. So based on your comfort and requirement, you can kind of mix and match between them and create your own frameworks that makes this entire tedious process of reading and writing easier and enjoyable. Yeah. So these days we are more hooked onto video and audio content. Reading has become out of fashion, out of style here, or rather, we either don't have the time or we don't have the acumen to really sit and read through for a long period of time. So this is where tools that can read papers for you becomes really helpful. The idea of reading text is not new, because we have all had audiobooks for quite some time, but we have never thought of reading in terms of reading scientific papers. So that is where tools like Speechify and listening IO can really help you. So these tools can read from your PDFs, they can read from your emails, docs, articles, and sometimes these tools also offer you to choose the voice that you want to hear the paper in. So Snoop Dogg is it's almost a pop cult icon at the moment. So if you're a fan, you could even choose to go with their voice. So once you have the papers, you have to read like a number of papers, say 40, 50 papers to write a manuscript. It's not always easy to keep track of them. It's not easy to remember them in their original form. So there is always a need wherein you will have to make your own notes, make these papers concise enough, and present them in some visual form where you have access to all of these papers quickly, and you can quickly compare, rearrange them to go into different sections of your paper. So the first step is to do this organization is to be able to take notes of a paper to make it into a concise. So the tool called Paper Digest can help you do this. It reduces a paper of any length into a summary that can be read in 3 minutes. On the average, reading a paper is like a 3-4 hours job on any given day. On bad days, it gets even longer. So this tool can quickly help you identify papers that are really worth reading in full, and also they can help you give quick summaries that can form the framework or the skeleton of the paper you're writing. But if a paper has to be summarized, the paper has to be available, which does not happen in all cases because we have something called uh, open access and subscription based journals. So if a paper is open access, then Paper Digest works well with it. If it is not, then there are troubles. So you can see here that Paper Digest does not always work well with Elsevier. But if we are talking about open access journals like MDPI, PLOS, and Springer, most of Springer, then yes, this is a great tool to have. So this tool has not been maintained in the past few months because the creators are working on a different project. Don't worry, don't be deterred by that announcement at the top of the page. Just scroll down. You'll see that there's a input space wherein you can give the DOI or the PDF link. Just say digest. You get your summary of the paper that could be read in under 3 minutes or even less. Then comes a requirement wherein you will have to create your own notes. These notes are not from one paper, but rather they are your thoughts around the paper, thoughts around a research grant, or thoughts around a lesson plan. It could be anything, or it could even be the minutes of a meeting when you're having meeting with your group, with your faculty team, and so on. So this is where tools like Firefly's AI and Notion AI can help you. Firefly's AI can even be incorporated into your Zoom calls. It sits with you as one of the participants. It kind of understands your meeting or analyzes your meeting. It brings out insights. It also gives you a very detailed notes. So Notion AI is like your sounding board where you can put across, just throw all your ideas into it in a very organized or unorganized way, and it kind of helps you to put them together in a very structured way that makes sense and that can be easily conveyed to others. So when we talk about original articles in particular, there are so many requirements for them to be accepted. There are so many journal requirements like word count limits. There are certain front matter, back matters that has to go into it. This is where a tool called PaperPal can help you. So PaperPal is one of the tools from the company I work for, Cactus Communications, and it helps you check a manuscript. PaperPal, among many other things, it helps check a manuscript for around 40 different criteria to check if the manuscript is complete, if it is organized in the right way. So say you have missed your keywords, PaperPal will highlight that for you. If you have missed references, or if you have missed citations, or if you have cited too many old references, it can also check out for all your language issues. It checks for your word count, structure, and so on. So it's like a complete check for your manuscript to ensure that all sections are included appropriately before you go for the journal submission. PaperPal can also be a great co-writer wherein you can write within PaperPal and it can help you quickly identify language issues and offer alternatives so that your writing is formal and accurate. So creating graphics is an inherent part of creating manuscripts, and we have already had great tools like BioRender, Mind the Graph that can help us do this. So these tools are slowly incorporating AI into their modules so that you don't have to really go pick out graphics from their library, but you would be able to create graphics from words. But that's a bit in the process. In the meanwhile, some tools you can check for creating non-data based images. So I'm not talking about images which come from data, all your graphs, histograms, and stuff, but rather data which, images which do not have data. Say, for instance, you're creating a graphical abstract, or you have the option to submit a cover image with your manuscript submission. So in such cases, you can try out tools like Midjourney and Bing. So Bing is not something new to us. Bing has been around as a search engine for quite some time, but we were so hell bent on using Chrome, Explorer. We even gave Firefox a chance, but not Bing. So Bing has come back with a vengeance now in the form of an image creator, and it is definitely pretty good. So this is an image or a set of images that Bing could create for the key term metallurgy or powder metallurgy. So yes, the images look amazing, but then you will have to play around a bit with your input to make sure that you have the right images. So managing references is definitely not the favorite part of anyone's writing journey, I'm sure. And spending half a day right during the early stages of your career to learn and incorporate a reference management tool into your schedule makes life much, much easier. So if you have not done it yet, consider this your reminder to do it in the weekend or the next days. So these are some of the reference management tools I'm sure most of you must have come across. And EndNote has been around for quite some time now. But EndNote is not free. Only the browser application is free. If you have to download it, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work as in it's not free. Nendly and Zotero are free tools. They are much sought after and used tools. The library is not as intense as EndNotes, but then they do a pretty good job. So these tools you see on the screen right now, they're not per se AI tools, but then great tools for reference management. There is then an AI tool that can help you with your references, especially if you don't have a management tool, or say if you're towards the end of completing your paper or thesis and you need some help with quickly changing the references from one format to another, then Trix is the tool you should be going to. So all you have to do is input your references into Trix, pull down the menu here, you'll see that it has some of the most used reference formats. It's not an exhaustive list, but then it's good than having nothing. One a special feature of Trix is that it also enables you to kind of format references in a consistent way, which means even if you don't have a specific format, this tool learns the dominant format in your reference list and applies this dominant format to rest of the references. So say you have a list that is 40 references long, 36 references are in one format, and 4 of the references are in a complete different haphazard way. The tool learns from these 36 references and applies the style as a template to the rest 4. Yeah, so this is one special feature you could find useful somewhere. So tackling the language and word counts is mandatory when you're writing manuscripts, thesis, abstracts, conferences, anywhere. Uh, we as researchers struggle with language, we struggle with word counts. So there are certain tools that can help you better with this, and these tools can also double up to help you with cases of plagiarism. So plagiarism need not always be intentional. Sometimes you could also have plagiarized accidentally. So be it intentional or accidental, once Turnitin or Authenticate, they kind of highlight the plagiarized content on your manuscript, then you will have to rewrite it to get your manuscript or thesis through. And these language tools could also double up to do that for you. So one thing that has been happening in the past years after the intense use of Turnitin is that people tend to do something called patch writing. So say when Tunton says that this is a plagiarized text, people don't really take the time or efforts to read through these texts and paraphrase them, but rather they just exchange words, change the active to passive voice, change structures, jumble up the sentences and words to confuse the plagiarism detection tool. The tool indeed gets confused and fooled, but the reader or the reviewer will definitely not be amused with such mangled sentences. So let's not do that. Instead, let's do the paraphrasing properly. So the first tool that can help you with your language needs is Quillbot. So Quillbot can do a number of things, starting from paraphrasing, checking your grammar, checking your plagiarism, co-writing, summarizing. It can even translate a handful of languages. WordTune is another tool that was not built specifically for research, but this is a great plugin similar to Grammarly. So Grammarly again initially was not a tool that was built for research, but now we have a version called Grammarly Scholar that could be much more relevant to research content. So one good thing about WordTune is that it can help you quickly switch between the casual and the formal tone. Sometimes it could get way too casual, so you still have to choose. So it gives you n number of options during the conversion. You get to choose which one you want. So where exactly can this be applied in a paper? Sometimes journals want you to convert, I mean, not just include abstracts, which are technical summaries of your paper. They also want you to write a more casual summary, which can be read by a larger audience. So in such cases, you can use this tool to quickly change your formal abstract into a bit less intense or casual summaries. Some journals want you to write tweets, which can go on Twitter. Now, famously or infamously renamed as X by our beloved Musk. So in such cases, WordTune could be a great tool. So Trinka is a tool that is similar to Quillbot. It can pretty much do everything that Quillbot does. But one advantage or one thing we love about Trinka is that it has a great user interface. And also for any feature you want to check out, it has its own tutorial videos, which makes learning these different features easier. And if you look at the costs involved, almost all the tools we have talked about today have one or few versions free, so you will still get access to these tools. Only that if you want to really go in depth into all the functionalities, you will have to pay for the premium version. So this is what the payment for Trinka looks like. So there are certain things called research managers, which put together several of the functionalities that we have talked until now. So one such reference manager is the researcher.life. This is again from Cactus Communications. So researcher.life includes LitMaps, it includes PaperPal, and recently Cactus also acquired Mind the Graph, which means all the other tools, or not all of them, but a few of those key tools are also put into Researcher Life. So this will be your one-stop solution. It has an app version. You can have it on your phone. It will help you stay updated on your literature, with your summarizing, with your writing. So it has different tools to help you with different processes. So no matter if you're writing a paper or if you're going to be a faculty in a class, then making presentations becomes an integral part of the scientific journey. And we are all very happy with PowerPoints, and in the recent days, we are all very happy with Canva. But there, the designs have to be made by you. The content has to come from you, though there are hundreds of templates or even more to choose from. But what if the entire presentation is made for you and handed out to you? It would be a very lazy thing to do, but sometimes we always struggle with starting a presentation and also creating the right skeleton. So that is where a tool called Dectopus can help you. Dectopus basically creates your entire deck, not for very complicated scientific questions, but for very generic topics. You can generate your decks in a few seconds using this tool. All you have to give is the title of the talk, the duration, the tone, and the tool will prepare your deck for you. So that was about the tools. And I will take the next few minutes answering some of the often asked questions. So, will teachers become irrelevant? Will teachers be replaced by AI? So Harvard has kind of answered the question already by using an AI professor for one of its computer courses for this particular semester. Though we see a robo on the screen, the AI professor is again a glorified Swiggy chatbot. So they have introduced a chatbot as a professor, a chatbot that has been trained on the subject to answer any questions that the students might have pertaining to the course. And AI is going to be there across different fields. Jobs will be lost, jobs are already being lost. Customer service no longer requires human intervention. Most of the logistics, so any task that is repetitive, that has a structure to it, that does not need much of creativity or changing decision making, too many complex decision making criteria there, they will be replaced. Those jobs will be lost to AI in the coming years. So yes, that is a bit scary, but then that's the world we live in. We still have to wait and see before we give our verdict on that. So this was a very interesting graphic that was released 2 weeks back or so, or even before, by OpenAI. It has listed out 120 AI tools. This, along with the tools that we have discussed today, are just the tip of the iceberg. There are thousands of tools out there, and at least a handful or hundreds being added on to each of them every day. So one thing we can take away from this is that if you find that one of your favorite tools has been moved behind a paywall, don't panic. There's a very high probability that someone has come up with an alternative tool that's completely free for you to do the same job. So coming to the ethical questions, is it ethical to use all these tools that we talked about today? Yes, it is of course ethical, but then how you use it is what will determine the ethical questions around it. Yeah. So if you want to use ChatGPT to create frameworks, ask the right questions, and kind of create the lesson ideas, then it is ethical. If you want to generate your whole PhD thesis using ChatGPT, then it becomes unethical. Even the journals feel the same. So if you use AI tools for just improving the readability and language, because researchers have already been taking this help. So that is where we come in as editors. So there are thousands of researchers who come to us every single day, and we help them out in improving their manuscript. We don't write their manuscripts for them. We help them in improving the readability. We help them in filling in the gaps if they have not written the manuscript coherently, and ensuring that it is in accordance with the journal guidelines. This is still acceptable even when it is done by a AI. But what becomes unacceptable is generating entire chunks of text, or using AI for creating whole manuscripts. That is where the problem starts. And if you happen to use AI for generating larger parts of text in your manuscript, then most of the journals, they want you to declare this in your declarations. Just like you declare a conflicts of interest, you will have to declare this in your in the back section of your manuscript. And several statements, you'll find that there are standard statements using which you will have to disclose the use of AI. You'll find this in your target journal. So will humans per se be replaced by machines and AI? We do not know. So Elon Musk is all set on going ahead with clinical trials for his Neuralink, wherein computer chips will be embedded into the brains of humans, making them a form of humanoids, I believe, if that is a term that could be used. So this again is a question for the future, but we'll have to still wait. So how can we kind of combat AI? So when we can actually use AI to combat AI, that's a good place to start. So when ChatGPT became popular, there were also other programmers and companies which were focused on creating tools that can identify content generated by ChatGPT and other generative AI content. So you'll find many tools like Zero GPT and others which can help you identify. Video recording of the session, you can always find it in the that are that can identify ChatGPT content. So if you want to stay relevant as a researcher, as a human, it's important that you bring in much more than memory to the table. So creativity, empathy, and understanding cues, and modulating your responses, creating something out of nothing. These are all things that AI will take a much longer time to learn. So if you can bring them to the table, then you'll not be replaced as soon. So I would like to leave you with this thought: AI is neither good nor evil. It's just a tool. It's a technology. So it depends on how you basically use it. So use it judiciously. And this is the link to my LinkedIn profile, where you will find me writing about scientific writing and publishing, about AI, NEP 2020, and so many other things. I share quite often there. You can also reach me on my WhatsApp, or if you are looking for one of our services, you can always write to us at my email ID. Yeah. So before I take questions, I would like to hear from you on the feedback. And for those of you who share the feedback, I'll be very happy to share the course slides, so that I'll have your mail ID on the feedback form. So I'll share the slides with you. Yeah. Okay. So there's already a feedback form shared. Great. So I have also shared a form. You can go ahead and spend a few minutes to fill that out. So now I'll be very happy to take questions if there are any.
Hi, ma'am.
Hello, doctor.
This is Lavanyashri from Palakkad.
Hello, doctor.
Actually, I'm a very good follower of yours in LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
I've seen all your posts and I was really impressed. Sorry, my baby's screaming in the backyard.
No problem.
Okay, actually, it was really an immense pleasure to see you so fast, so fast through this workshop. It was just I received the link by yesterday. I
Okay.
thank the college and the entire team for giving me this opportunity to bring Dr. Sowmiya to this platform. Ma'am, it was really a very good a presentation. So, how could I make it very short? Mm, See, you said there are hundreds of tools in the last one spin wheel, but you have made us, you have brought us a very crisp presentation, giving us the very most tedious work. No, within this 100 tools, we can't sit and search which website will give what kind of output. And you have done a lot of homework, and you have spent so much of hard work in bringing us to this. So, actually, really, thank you so much for bringing us such a crisp presentation, and really it will help me. And definitely we will share once we are publishing a paper with your support. That is, your presentation will support us to give a good publication, I think so. Thank you so much, ma'am, for all your effort that you have taken, really. And you are an impressive LinkedIn influencer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. It's me, Ayub Khan, a research scholar from Bangalore Geetham University.
Okay.
Ma'am, I want to know any application or any AI tool which can help us to do like a qualitative analysis, like coding and this thing. Like we have Atlas.ai. Now they are start charging.
Yeah.
So the applications.
So I think if you're talking about creating and interpreting code, then ChatGPT seems to be doing a good job. Only that you cannot use the ChatGPT per se. You will have to bring in some code interpreters and other plugins. So ChatGPT has many plugins now. You will have to kind of find the right plugin that can work for you. But then considering data analysis, there are nice tools like Tableau. Even SPSS has been doing a great job in analyzing data and presenting it in nice visual formats. But I am really not aware of AI tools that can support you end to end when it comes to data analysis. So Tableau in itself, I think they do have some AI components to them, but end to end support for data analysis might be difficult, be it qualitative or quantitative, is what I feel.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
But you should really try out Tableau, maybe, or I'm sure you're using it already. That could be a great place to start.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm using. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Soumya. This is Ria here. Hello.
Hello. Hi, Raya.
My question is regarding, like, you did sort of address it at the last slide where you said that AI is a tool and it's not inherently good or bad. But like an apprehension that I'm facing is like, how do I, for instance, let's say I have written something up of my own, and then there is this sort of, in general, with uploading anything, or in general with working with AI, there is this. So let's say I'm working with some data, and that is of course confidential, and that is sort of protected in a sense by regulations and ethics guidelines. So how would you suggest someone to think about using AI in these fronts? Because then somewhere if an analysis is happening, then my apprehension is that is it in any way risking the sort of foundation of, like, confidentiality, or like, how would you advise someone with this question in mind to think about it?
Great question, Raya. So I would say look at the publisher. Yeah. So say for instance, when we talk about PaperPal and Researcher.life, they are from Cactus, who have been in the field of scientific writing and publishing for like 30 years. So when they come out with a tool, there's a lot of things at stake for them as well. So if there is a breach, they also have a huge price to pay, which means we could kind of rely on them or expect them to be ethical in the way they handle data that comes to them, and also in terms of security concerns, because it is also a huge thing for them. They usually have security measures in place to ensure that such data breaches do not happen. So I think looking at the publishers is one good way to ensure that you are indeed dealing with the tool that is relevant. Having said that, there have been cases where these Turnitin scams have been happening over the different educational landscapes. So instead of purchasing Turnitin for the entire price, it's prohibitively costly. Not everyone can afford it. So what happens is there are some agencies that offer the login credentials for something as low as 5,000. So what they do is they basically get the login from somewhere else, from universities in Singapore, Malaysia, as much as I have heard, and they share the credentials to multiple people here. Once it so happened that putting the thesis through Turnitin led to data breach, and a part of the thesis got published elsewhere. So if something as robust as Turnitin can undergo such such breaches, there should always be a note of caution or an air of caution whenever you're using the tools. That's what I could suggest. There will always be that slight possibility that something can go wrong, because it's the internet, it's AI.
Right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Praveen. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. So if you can unmute yourself, please go ahead and do so. If not, you can also leave your comments in the chat box. I have the chat box open. I can also take it from there. Yeah, Adira, I see that you're trying to unmute yourself.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, hello, sir.
A wonderful session can be taken on this particular time. Congratulations, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Ma'am, but today most of the people is not referring to the Chat GPT. They are only focused on Google or any other Google scholars only, not focusing on Chat GPT. What is the reason for that one?
Chat GPT, it simplifies things too much. Yeah. And the initial craze has definitely gone down when it comes to Chat GPT. So people find that it is, it is oversimplified. Sometimes it is not reliable. The information provided is not accurate. So I think that is one of the reasons why the popularity has gone down.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rajesh Kumar. Thank you, Amuda, for those kind words. So any other questions? I'm sure some of you are hungry.
Yeah, actually we are running out of time. It's more than 90 minutes now. So thanks a million for your time and for your presentation. It has been extremely insightful. Many of them are researchers, and the tools you have discussed, I'm sure they must be using it and will become better researchers in the future. So once again, I extend our deep sense of gratitude to you on behalf of Saint Chavara Center for Teaching Excellence and Educational Innovation. The formal vote of thanks follow.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am, for your excellent session and for handling the questions. I request all the participants to fill out the feedback form.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we conclude, I would like to invite Dr. Ebin Sojan, Assistant Professor of Department of English at St. Aloysius College, to express formal vote of thanks. Dr. Ebin, over to you.
Yeah. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hi, you are, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Hello. Good evening, all. Here we are at the closure of the 10th chapter of the FDP series organized by Chavara Center for Teaching Excellence and Education Innovation. Today, we are particularly fortunate to have Dr. K.S. Sowmiya Rani as our invited speaker. In her session, Dr. Rani walked us through the novel avenues of possibilities and challenges that AI-enabled education and research scenario are open in front of us. She has not only introduced us to the various AI tools that would make our research a lot easier, but she has also addressed the often asked questions in relation to the looming uncertainties regarding human AI encounter. Your session was as delightful as it is practically useful, ma'am. On behalf of St. Aloysius College and St. Chavara Center for Teaching Excellence and Education Innovation, I would like to place on record our sincere sense of gratitude. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. So, yeah, make sure that you have time to fill in both the forms. So, with my form, I think I'll kind of get the details from the college as well, and I'll try to share the course slides with you so that you have that in hand to use beyond the session as well. So, thank you for being a wonderful audience. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. We will share the feedback with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
So we just stop here. Thanks a lot.